Great.
Right, we've got a few people in, so let's get started. Hi, everybody. My name's Marsha Lindsay. I am the founder and the director of Nobu Pilates. And for those that have been on the journey with us, we launched a campaign at the end of last year, which was Every Body is a Pilates Body. And we've been running this series of lives, speaking to interesting Pilates people in the world. But I'm so happy that today I get to speak to my Pilates sister in LA, Nicky Lal.
Hi.
So we're going to get cracking with the chat. But I think let's start from the beginning with you, Nicky. How did your Pilates passion and journey start?
So this is a question I answer all the time. I'm like, well, how do I sound less redundant? But it really is my story.
Yeah.
So I was a graphic designer for quite some time here in Los Angeles. I'm originally from Miami, but I have like no fitness background.
Yeah.
No personal training background. I kept active like a lot of us do. Like living in Miami, you're always in a bathing suit, so you're like forced to keep active.
Yeah.
When I moved to LA, I was a graphic designer. I went to school for art, studio art. I painted, I designed things, logos, websites, all the stuff. And I would go to Pilates after work to beat the LA traffic for 2 hours after work to work out because I didn't want to sit in the car for 2 hours.
Yeah.
Fell in love with how Pilates made my body feel. I hated going to the gym just because it was so monotonous for me, boring. I just didn't like repetitive actions. So when I found Pilates, fell in love, started doing my teacher training process through Balanced Body. Did it very quickly, like in about a span of like 8 months, I was done with my full comprehensive training. The pandemic really helped me as an instructor. A lot of instructors, like I got way better at my cueing because I had to teach virtually and I couldn't use my hands and I was very tactile hands-on. So COVID changed my life in cueing. I was a lot more specific. I had to be more specific because how was I going to tell my clients what I want them to feel and to do through a screen? And I feel like 50% of my clientele now is still virtual. And I love sitting, watching, and training virtually. Sometimes I see a lot more. COVID really changed how I taught. I feel like I got better and I didn't realize how much better my cueing got until people started reaching out to me on Instagram. And that's when I started doing my cueing workshops. That's basically my journey. And then I worked at a studio for quite some time here in LA. And then my intention was always to find something and open something of my own. And so I worked out of my garage, like a lot of us do, for a long time. I worked out for like a year until I found this space, this beautiful space. It took me some time because I wanted like tall ceilings. I needed some space with taller clients that I work with. I wanted space to have multiple pieces of equipment. And then I found my space back last January. It's like a year now.
Oh,
and
amazing.
So happy.
And it's doing so well.
It's fun. It's fun to be in your own space and not have to worry about so many other elements and working around other instructors.
I just want to bring it to this campaign we've done recently. And for anybody that hasn't seen it, please, when you do have some time, go and check out on our Instagram. It has the most gorgeous imagery with people from our community. But it was really around this term Pilates body, which I'm really excited to get your take coming from the US. But in the UK, the term Pilates body is very specifically around a certain image. It's normally female, very slender, dancer, bendy, which can put barriers between anybody that feels that don't fit in that pocket from even coming to try. So we did our campaign to break those walls down and show that it's for any gender, any race, and whatever you're going through in life, any age. What's your, I don't know what it's like over there, the term Pilates body, is it a similar experience? And
I mean, it's very, very similar. I know in London that you guys have like a ton of tall, long, model-looking girls, right? And Pilates body is the aesthetic. People are like, oh, you see a model, you're like, totally. She's toned up, skinny, has like perfect muscles on the arms. They're like, that's a Pilates body. And to a certain extent, you can see when people are doing and training in Pilates because it is a different frame. But that's over time, and if that's only what you're doing, chances are people are not just doing Pilates. And I've been seeing on Instagram and hearing other instructors now saying Pilates body is for everybody, which is 1,000% true. I've been training every body type since the beginning stages of my career. And to focus on one specific gender and demographic, like a dancer body, it goes back to when Pilates started or when Joe brought Pilates to New York. New York, he just found a space underneath a ballet studio. And it was kind of like, then the dancers started to come to him. But he was training regular body types all the time. And to have a Pilates body for me is functionality and strength and adding mobility to wherever you are when you're beginning your Pilates journey. If you're consistent with it, your body will change to a Pilates body, which isn't necessarily the aesthetic of how it looks, but how it moves, how to understand when you're able to push a little further, how to strengthen a little more, to become more flexible if that's your intention, right? So a Pilates body to me is functional movement, creating strength, showing restraint of strength if necessary. So when I work with every body type, I'm working with athletes, I'm working with grandparents, I'm working with people recovering from injuries. For me, it's to change their body and to change their mentality on how to move their bodies. And it's just basically functionality of your body. And to be able to take what you learn in here and use it functionally in your daily life. Because if we refrain from doing certain actions because of an injury, or we refrain from doing certain movements because of that, or because there's limitations in the body, what can I do to help strengthen that so when they go outside, they can do that? Because I know for a fact that I'm being conscious in here and being careful, but they're not being careful once they step out these doors. So definitely. What can I do to help my clients get a Pilates body outside of my Pilates studio? So that means just body awareness, awareness and functionality. That's a Pilates body to me. So enhancing performance outside of just like using the cool equipment in the studio and hanging upside down. Like, what is it? What's the purpose of it, right?
How for you, in your personal workouts, like how does Pilates, why is it so important to your body?
Okay, first off, we know as instructors, it's impossible to get all the equipment. They're like,
so I know, I'm saying that myself and I get it.
Once you start teaching Pilates, you won't do Pilates. I'm like, that's not going to be me. I love Pilates.
I've got my own studio.
You know how many times I have 4 reformers? I don't know when I've ever gotten on all these reformers. But I love Pilates. Like I mentioned it a little bit before. Like the gym to me is like intimidating. There's other forms of workouts that I can like. It's just there's always like that same repetitive action in these classes. Like you know what's going to happen next. And for my mind, it just doesn't work with my mind-body connection. I get bored. I'm like, how many 10 reps is why? Why am I doing so many? So for me, when I found Pilates, it just like clicked. I'm like, I can move my body in a free position that I can start to feel stretch. I can start to feel like I'm pushing my body in a controlled way, but I can strengthen it. So it felt really nice to have the ability to change spring tension, but I can do as many reps as I want until I feel fatigue. And I know I'm gaining strength until I feel that fatigue. So in my own body, it's just the feeling of challenge, the feeling of always constantly changing what I can do on the equipment, being creative on the equipment. I just feel comfortable using the Pilates equipment.
We have some questions for you, Nikki. Let me just get those. The first question was, what common movement patterns or imbalances do you notice in athletes, and how does Pilates correct them?
There are so many things that I've noticed across the board with all clientele, right? But specifically for athletes, and I work a lot with NBA, so basketball players and football players and soccer players, but majority of my clientele is basketball and football. And it's shifting a lot in the football world, how people are looking at their bodies differently, training their bodies differently, and then doing other modalities outside of the weight room.
Yes.
So the weight room is like the gym setting, which is something that they know and they're required to do as athletes. So there's a lot of deficits in that because it's the very classical weight room training.
Yeah.
When they come to Pilates, the guys are looking for something different. They want to enhance whatever it is that they're doing on the field by training, cross-training a different way. So when athletes come to me, I'm trying to teach them Pilates. There's a lot of common limitations, which are like hip mobility. That's like a huge one. We see lack of hip mobility in men. So they are very quad dominant majority of the time. So I'm working on hamstrings. I'm working on mobility of the hip. I'm working on strengthening their glutes. It's very hard to continue to strengthen areas of your body if you don't have the range. So I'm focusing on adding range in all of their joints, adding the functionality, full functionality of the shoulder, in the hip, the ankle, the wrist, their spine. And in doing that, I am strengthening their muscles. But I can't turn on a muscle or target a muscle. It's going to work, but I can't focus on one specific one because they work together in conjunction with one another. But you need mobility. So when working with athletes, I'm trying to focus on seeing what deficits they have in their mobility and then how to strengthen the mobility, add range in the mobility, and then strengthen the muscles in that as well.
We had another one. I feel like it's kind of linked. How do you use Pilates to help athletes improve recovery and longevity in sports?
So specifically for athletes, I kind of train everybody the same. So I want everybody to be as functional as they can be in their daily lives. But when an athlete comes to me with either a specific injury or some sort of limitation or recovering from an injury, I am focusing on that a lot more. So I'm thinking about what can I give them out, not only in Pilates, but what can they do outside of Pilates? Because we only have them for like an hour, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And if we see them multiple times a week, great, I can continue to work on it. But I want to give them actions and elements that they can take with them outside of here, that they can do at their house, they can do at the gym, whenever they're going to the weight room. So I'm focusing on simple movements that they can take outside of Pilates. Yeah. If there's an imbalance somewhere, I need to strengthen everything else because I don't know what caused that imbalance.
Yeah.
It could be targeted in the Achilles, but it might not be. It might be something that's happening on the other side of the body, in the front of the body. Yeah. Who knows? So like we need to look at how they're standing, how they're moving, and I can't do that if I'm just looking at one part. You need to broaden the way that you look at the entire body.
Will you be doing any workshops in the UK or Europe this year?
Yeah, I think the UK in March.
Gosh.
I will be doing something in Chicago in October. It hasn't been announced yet, but I'll be doing like I'll do 2 workshops in Chicago. And it's going to be the Pilates on Tour with Balanced Body.
Oh, wow. That's going to be so fun.
It'll be fun. So whoever's in the US or abroad and wants to come October, I will be teaching 2 workshops with Balanced Body for Pilates on Tour. That'll be fun. But I'm trying to add in more travel workshops. So if anybody has a country that I'm in transit and that I can stop by, let me know.
Yeah, exactly. Reach out to Nikki. What do you say to anybody who has any reservation, is intimidated, is too scared to start Pilates? What's your message to those folks?
They're not wrong. It could be very intimidating, especially that it is known as being a female-driven industry. And that's why I like to showcase a lot of my clientele that I work with, a lot of men. I know you also showcase that. You have a lot of men coming into your studio. But there's still a lot of people who don't go to Pilates studios because it is female-driven. So showcasing that men do Pilates, showcasing men on the equipment. But like anything new, it's intimidating. So I touched upon it already. Showing people that you don't need to be jumping upside down on the Cadillac, and showing people that they don't need to be super flexible to do Pilates. That Pilates will, again, meet you where you need to be. But it's educational. We have to educate people and let them know, like, it's not bad. It's It's not yoga. Like we're like, oh, it's like yoga, right? You stretch a lot, but it's not yoga, but it helps with functional movements, and it helps with injury prevention, and it helps with injury recovery. Anything, if you want to feel good in your body, try Pilates.
I love that.
If you want to feel like you can functionally move and be happy, try Pilates. So no matter where you are in your body, there's a way that Pilates will find its way to you. And a lot of it has to do with finding the right instructor. You can apply Pilates to anything.
Yeah.
And if we as instructors do a good job, people will love Pilates.
Oh, what a lovely way to end. Thank you for your time. I hope you're having lovely Sundays. And we'll be back next week with a new guest. Thank you so much, Nikki.
Thanks, Marsha.
Bye.
Bye.